Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 9 of Comeback Sports Podcast. For those of you who didn't know, I actually found a name for my show. We have some top topics to talk about. I'll be talking about Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks this season, with a special guest, of course. Then we'll be going on about college basketball and the Bulls and the NBA and what to expect this season. So stick around and we'll have some more. So now for your quote of the week. Don't let the haters stop you from doing your thing. Ethan, what does that quote mean to you?
It just means when no matter what anyone says to you, just always do you. Always don't let anyone talk you down and just do what you want to do.
Exactly, man. So those of you know where this quote came from. Kevin is on that movie Mean Girls, and as a character, he's just like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm always doing me. I mean, he's Kevin G, dude. He's gonna do his thing, and you should be doing your thing too. Because at the end of the day, man, it's just you. People's opinions aren't gonna matter at the end. So as long as you're just doing yourself and being true, then you're good to go.
Kevin G.
Thank you, Kevin. That's enough.
Cool. Now we got the quote out of the way. I love doing quote of the week. It's just fun. It's like I don't really see a lot of shows do that.
Yeah. No, it's good to take it from different movies and
Right.
funny places like that. So
Exactly. So those who don't know who this is my brother-in-law Ethan, and he is the only Seattle Seahawks fan that I know within 2,000 miles. So he's definitely a special breed in this area. So he's my brother-in-law. We've known each other for 10 plus years, I think.
yeah, somewhere around there.
Let's see. When did you start dating my sister? 2012, 2011?
Yeah, 2012. So I guess
8 years?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No. I think it was in 2000. Melissa and I were just talking about this the other day, and I think it was because I came to Illinois in 2011, so it was like August of 11, I think. So
Yeah, because you guys know each other for a long time, but you weren't. You guys
we
weren't
worked together.
dating until later.
We worked together for a couple of years before that.
Right. Very interesting love story. I mean,
Out of the friend zone.
Yeah, get out of the friend zone. It doesn't really happen very often. Well, not me. I always get out of the friend zone. Great buddy of mine. We lived together for about half a year when I moved out to the Illinois area, so I'm very grateful. Him and my sister were able to help me start my career, just like a good jump start. So, as I mentioned, Ethan is a huge Seattle Seahawks fan, and right now, we're seeing Russell Wilson kind of jumping out into the scene. He's in the MVP discussion and to some sort of degree. So, Ethan, Russ is on pace to throw the most attempts in a season out of his entire career. It's easy to say that Pete Carroll, the head coach, is kind of letting him cook. And since we're seeing more of him controlling the ball, and he's doing pretty well, do you think that this is a surprise to you, or is this is just what happens when you let Russ cook?
I've seen this for his entire career. Whenever they would get behind in a game, or he'd always bring them back. When he could take over the offense and just run them down the field, or call the plays at the line of scrimmage, he'd always make the plays. He'd always bring them back. He's always, bring them back. And this is one of the first few years where he hasn't really had Chris Carson, starting running back's been hurt. This is one of the first few years he hasn't had a running game, so he's been having to do a lot of it by himself. And he started out the year so well, and then now it's kind of come down a little bit, come back to earth a little bit. But I knew he had this in him, and I'm glad they finally this year they let him, take over and take a little more of the offense and run the plays at the line of scrimmage and throw a little more and that kind of stuff. And they kind of needed to with that defense they have. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Some people are criticizing that. Yeah, he's throwing the ball more and he's throwing more picks than usual. But here's the thing though. Regardless of the amount of interceptions, he's on pace to beat his season best in total TDs in a season. Mm-hmm. And it's not only the TDs he's gonna surpass. He's about to surpass his own completion percentage. Right now, he's sitting about 70% this season, and I think his best season is 66, 67%. So sure, he's throwing the interceptions, but he's still throwing the ball with a thought process of throwing it to the right teammate, and just making good decisions. And just kind of a more technical level, he's on track to beat his own QBR and passer rating, which is a very technical statistic that kind of shows an overall picture of how well a quarterback is doing. And the thing that kind of sucks for him is that he's on pace to be sacked the most times this season, which is a little bit his fault, but it's also he doesn't have much to work with.
Yeah, his line. This is the best his line has ever been. He's ever had, and I think that's why he started out the year so well. And then I think he started to press and think he can make every throw. And he started to, they get behind, in the Buffalo game, they got behind 17-0. The game in LA, they played like garbage, and it started in the Arizona game when he started throwing in more picks and stuff like that. But I think they kind of got back a little more running game last week with Carlos Hyde coming back, and I think that's kind of what he needs. He does a lot better with having the play action pass, and he's definitely one of the best scramble quarterbacks there is. So
right, yeah. I mean, what I like about him is that he's very efficient. And what I noticed is that he still has that level of efficiency with more passing attempts. That's what I notice in quarterbacks. Usually when you see quarterbacks with real great efficiency, that's because they're not throwing it very much.
Mm-hmm.
But he is throwing much, and which is why I think this is actually normal Russ. Because if he's still being somewhat consistent about how he's performing with the amount of attempts, then I think this is just normal him. He just needs to get out of his cage.
Yeah, I agree with Pete. Pete Carroll's always been the defensive coach, the running coach. You don't go for it on 4th and 1s. You play the game how it used to be played, and finally this year he's letting the offense do what it needs to do. And
right.
I think he also knew coming into the season how bad his defense was going to be to start the year.
Right.
They've been coming on a little bit, but he's kind of realized that and knew they were going to have to outscore some opponents. So he's like, you know what, Russ knows what he's doing. He's one of the most accurate passers there is. And he's finally got a little better weapons this year too.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And since we're still on the topic of what he's so good at, what are kind of the unique talents that he has that every quarterback has? I mean, just kind of start off. I mean, I think he has one of the best deep balls. I mean, it just lands so effortlessly. I could literally be Russ could call me from the stand, hey, you get in the stand. I'm going to throw this ball 50 yards and you're going to catch it, and I will somehow catch it. I think he can just land it so softly.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is he's kind of off the field. When I notice interviews, is he's very optimistic, and he's really a team player kind of guy. I mean, people kind of criticize or make fun, think he's kind of corny.
He is very corny.
He does say some corny things. For starters, he named his newborn child Win.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of weird, but other than that, he's just a very likable guy, I think.
Yeah, he definitely thinks there's always a chance to come back no matter how far they're down. And, it's because they've done it before. They've been down 16-0 at home in the NFC Championship game when they beat the Packers.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. And that's just how he's always been, very positive. He gets everyone to stay in the game and stay ready because he knows the situation's going to come, and he knows he's going to come through. He knows he's done it plenty of times. And granted, everyone's going to fail every once in a while, but for most times he's going to come through and make the plays to win.
Right, and you mentioned that he always thinks there's a chance to win, and one thing I've noticed is look at his 2019 season, he's very clutch. I mean, there's always a chance for a comeback in his eyes, and I sometimes question that maybe he kind of lacks a little bit of urgency halfway through the game, which causes him to make clutch plays in the last quarter. But looking at 2019, he had 4 comeback drives and 5 game-winning drives, which is pretty high statistically for quarterbacks that season. Mm-hmm. So he has that clutch gene in him, which I really like.
And also, it's the way that Pete Carroll also plays, so he gets to be put in that situation more and more, where he keeps the game close, he runs the ball, he plays defense, and it keeps him in one-score games or within striking distance, at least in the fourth quarter. That's kind of what you want, and
right.
He comes through. So
yeah, definitely.
But one of his traits that I think that it's not just him, but it's him and his receivers, is they work so well in their scramble drills where they always know where he's going to go and how to get open with him when he's running around, and he's always looking downfield. He wants to pass. He doesn't want to run as good as he is at running.
Right.
He's always trying to get that pass on the field, and that's where their biggest plays come is from the scramble drills.
Right. Since we're on the topic of his receivers, let's just talk about his overall weapons. Would you say his weapons are as dangerous as, say, the Steelers or Buccaneers or even the Cowboys?
I think that the if you want to talk about how high they're drafted or their actual skill level, no. But I think these receivers are best for him. Granted, they have a stud in DK Metcalf who's coming on, and that dude is just a freak. That dude will be a number 1 receiver on every team. But I think Tyler Lockett probably wouldn't be. He's a good receiver, but he works so well with Russell, and Russell just puts it on him every time. And he's really good at his route running and his scramble drills, stuff like that. And even David Moore, who's their third receiver, is also quick too. They like to throw a little screen pass to him. That dude can make anyone miss.
Right.
So granted, would anyone say that their receivers are up to the par with those guys? No, but in my opinion, yes, and I'm a little biased too.
Right.
I watch these guys play all the time, and I see the plays they make and the catches they make, and I'll take those three over.
Right.
over
I mean, yeah, sure. It is important to mention, like, yeah, some needs to be a little biased towards your team. I'm sometimes biased with the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, but like kind of just looking at statistically, like starting with Lockett, I mean, he's top 5 in receptions to target percentage. I mean, he's not dropping
he
as
always
many of
catches
his passes, which is a great trait to have, and that's hard to do with any sort of quarterback you have. He's not to mention he's also top 10 receptions and overall TDs. So Lockett is. You mentioned Lockett is real quick. He has really good separation, I think, when it comes to those short passes. And then DK Metcalf, he's the next kind of weapon where he's like a true deep ball receiver. I mean, he's top 5 in 20 and 40 plus yard receptions. And so, like, what's nice is that he has weapons, but he has different types of weapons for different sort of situations. And that's why I think they work so well together, because it's just an arsenal. Like, all right, which receiver makes most sense for this sort of situational play?
Mm-hmm. And like too, also they're not like a bunch of prima donnas. They know they're not top, first round draft picks. They know that they have to work at it, and so they're not like, hey, I need the ball, give me the ball every time. They just want to win.
Right.
And if you get teams like the Bucks who have Godwin, who's first round pick, Evans first round pick, now you got Antonio Brown there.
Yeah.
They all want the ball, and they're going to cry about it if they don't get the ball. So I think that helps too, knowing that you can just spread the ball around to whoever you need to.
Right.
So.
And like you mentioned the Buccaneers, and one thing that I kind of noticed, that kind of rubs me the wrong way, is the head coach Bruce Arians. Like, he comes off to me as he likes to point fingers. Like, I've never really seen a coach in press conferences that just straight up calls out players, especially calling out Tom Brady in a couple of game-losing drives.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. Maybe you can correct me on this, but does Pete Carroll kind of do that, or is he kind of like, he's kind of the reputation, in my opinion, as like a player-friendly coach? Do you think that's true?
He's definitely a player-friendly coach, and he won't call out people usually in the media like that. But maybe Bruce Arians knows how Brady is, and knows if I put him down in public, he's going to come out the next game and he's going to put out that he's going to play as good as he can. The next game is what he kind of thinks, because Brady wants to be the best, and he's the best. And he's one of the best quarterbacks ever there is,
Right.
So some people say that it was with New England and his system that they had there, because they never really had a top. I mean, the one year they had it was Randy Moss, and they set record after record with them. So I think that maybe Arians just like, let's try this and see if him getting called out will have him come out and play better the next game. So
yeah, that's a good. That's real insightful. I never really thought of it that way. I just kind of thought like Arians and the Buccaneers are always been like, hey, we lose, we booze. So it's like, hey, I don't really care, and like I'll call anybody out. Honestly, it's not a big deal to them. But having Brady in their system now, they have to have a different mindset. But like kind of going in, we talk about the offensive side of the ball. We'll talk a little bit of the defensive side. And are you seeing any improvements? Because they've been known to have like one of the worst defense in terms of yards allowed. And to me, it seems like their pass defense is what's really killing them. Like looking at the run game, they're actually not that bad. And kind of just a little bit of stats here. They're really good at applying pressure to quarterbacks, and I think that same sort of strategy applies to with the run game as well. If they can just put pressure on the O-line and the quarterbacks, the same effect could happen with the run game.
Yeah, their D-line is definitely built better to be a run-stopping team.
Right.
Than they are, but now they went out and they traded for Carlos Dunlap, who's come in and he's had 2 sacks in 2 games with them.
Yeah.
And also, the Jaron Reed he was hurt a little bit, and he's kind of their interior pressure D lineman. But Dunlap definitely is the pressure guy they've been missing. So they got him, and he's helped out that team. But also with their pass defense is to generate pressure. They've had to blitz a lot. So they blitz Jamal Adams, which is what he does as a safety. That's kind of his game. He blitzes. He's in the box safety. He's not a cover guy. So when you blitz like that, as many times they do with their linebackers, it opens up holes. And their cornerbacks, their starting quarterback, Shaq Griffin's been hurt. And the other one has been Quentin Dunbar, who has also been hurt. And this is his first year in Pete Carroll's system.
Right.
So with that, he's learning a new system, so he's been out of position a couple of times. But also, it's a lot of one-on-one coverage back there when they blitz like that. So that's kind of why they're getting up the yards. And also, they got up big in a lot of those games against the Falcons start the year, against the Cowboys at the beginning of the year. They got up big in those games, so then all these teams are passing a lot more than running the ball. So that's why they play a little more prevent D because they're up by 3 scores or whatever, and the teams come back. So that's another thing that's kind of been up. But the last couple games, since they got Dunlap and Jamal Adams has come back healthy, they've been playing a lot better defense, and I think they're going to keep getting better and better as the year goes on. Because all they need to be is top 20 defense, and that'll help out Russell in the offense a lot. So
right, and then you mentioned Carlos Dunlap because I believe they picked him up from the Bengals.
Yes, they traded. I don't know what they traded for him. I don't know what pick they traded for.
Yeah, but my understanding was like the Bengals were kind of like eager to get him out though.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think there would be some like maybe not more of like on the field problems, more off the field problems that could come off? That maybe why this is why Carlos was so. They were so eager to get rid of him.
He was not happy with his role in Cincinnati. He didn't play every down like he wanted to, and I think he was beefing with the coordinators and the coach from what I've read, and he just wasn't happy with it, and he wanted a new contract, and Cincinnati wasn't going to give that to him, so he didn't want to play for him. So he's also like, well, then trade me. Then if you're not going to put me in the position to make plays and let me play every down like I should be, then trade me. And they. Luckily for Seattle, worked out, and because Carlos Dunlap has always been a top D lineman. He's long, he's quick,
right,
and he fits Seattle's defense perfectly with his skill. So,
right, yeah, if he's consistent of like how he's been playing these last 3 games, like I can definitely see him being worth what they gave to get him.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to Jamal Adams, you mentioned like his kind of niche is that he applies pressure more than safeties do. And do you think it would help that if he backed off a little bit on the pressure and kind of did more coverage to kind of balance out the equilibrium of kind of a little bit more stronger in the pass defense, but kind of back off a little bit of the rush defense?
Yeah, his skill set is not to be a cover safety. That's not him. He's quick and he can maneuver in around the line and all the pressure up front. So that's kind of what granted, he can cover, but their cover safety is Quandre Diggs, who is their deep safety. And Seattle plays a cover 3 scheme, and so they like the 2 cornerbacks on the outside cover the back third, or their side of the third, and then the safety covers the middle third, and then their other safety is kind of the roamer. And so that's what they do with Jamal Adams. So I think that's just who he is. And, he's helped out that defense when he's been healthy. He was out for 5 games with a groin issue, and Seattle's defense struggled during that. So, he's still trying to learn also Pete Carroll's scheme and all the plays that they run. And they gave a lot for him. They gave 2 first-round picks, so we'll see if they can sign him to a contract. I think I want him there. He's a good player.
Yeah.
I like his energy that he brings to the team, especially this time in this year with no fans. Like, you need to generate your own energy,
Right.
and he always has that for that defense. So it helps to have that. So
yeah, that's very true because believe it or not, having no fans does create an impact because like when there's big key play moments and the fans are out rallying the troops or keeping the players motivated. If you don't have it anymore, you're going to need your players to do the job for you.
Yeah.
So Ethan, since we're still in the discussion of the Seattle Seahawks and Russ cooking, do you think he has a good case of getting the MVP this year? If not, what do you think he needs to do to improve his chances?
I think, to start the year, he was on fire. No one could touch him. I think he had 14 total touchdowns in the first 3 games, and he was definitely number 1 on MVP. But, then he had 3 out of the 4 bad games. He had 1 good one in there, I think, against San Fran. But he had a bad game against Arizona, bad game against the Bills, and a bad game against LA. So I think those 3 games are going to hold him back from getting the MVP. And, I mean, to be honest, to get the MVP, I think they have to win out, get the number 1 seed in the NFC, and he's got to maybe have 1 or 2 more turnovers the rest of the year and throw for another. What do we got? 6. We got 7 games left. No, 6 games left. 6 games left. He's got to throw, I'd say, at least 18 touchdowns over the last 6 games. So you got to average 3 touchdowns a game and 2 turnovers total over the 6 games. That's the fumbles, interceptions, and someone's got to. Mahomes has to have a bad couple games.
Right.
Somewhere. I don't see that happening. But, I think that a quarterback is always going to be the MVP, but that team without Russell would be terrible.
That's true. And I've said this in a previous episode, Russell was my top pick going through week 5, I think. He was my top pick because, statistically at the time he was the best, but then MVP means most valuable player. In my eyes, if that person's value is gone, the team is in shambles.
Yeah.
It's very obvious that Russ is with keeping the game alive, and a little bit of the defense is trying to step up now. That's the thing. If the defense continues to improve and Russ still can do his thing, then he'll start. The Seattle Seahawks will have a better chance of getting that number 1 seed, and Russ will look good in the process of it because if they play good, he'll play good as well. And in terms of what I think right now, I don't think he's going to win it. I think Mahomes is in the favor just because the media loves Mahomes too.
Yeah,
I mean,
and he's great. He's
Right.
the best quarterback we have in the NFL right now.
right.
Hands down.
Yeah. He's definitely the best right now. I mean, the guys like Brady and Rodgers, they're past their prime. Rodgers is playing really great, but he's not playing Mahomes level though.
No. Yeah, and Mahomes doesn't have his defense has been okay this year. You know, they're not bad, but that's the thing that's why Russ was number one for 5 weeks because his defense was historically bad with the yards and points they're giving up, and they're still 5-0. You know,
Right.
they're winning every game, so you had to put them at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I like to put Mahomes in that category of being one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but I want to see some adversity.
Yeah.
I want to see him play with the team, maybe probably not this year or next year, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line. He'll eventually not have the best receivers in the league. I want to see what he does with what little he has. Because we've seen all the great quarterbacks done it. Brady has done it, Rodgers has done it, Russ has done it in the past, and I think that would be all right. He did it. He's done it all now. He's worked. He's made the best of what he's had with so little. The conversation's over. He's definitely going to be in the tier of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm cheering for Russ. As you know, I love his game. So efficient. He can throw the deep balls. He's not afraid to do it. He's willing to take the risks if he needs to. But he does it with calculated risks. He doesn't just do it to be a gunslinger like Brett Favre.
Yeah.
So now that we got Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks out of the way, me and Ethan both love basketball, and the NBA is coming up. And me and him, we both live in the Chicago area, so we somewhat follow the Bulls. And I'm a huge Bull fan, and I'm sure he's somewhat of a fan too. So let's kind of talk about the Bulls in terms of the new management, the coaching. Do you like the change? Is it a step in the right direction for the Bulls?
I love the VP, Arturis or whatever his name is. I think AK is what you called him.
Yeah.
I think, he did really well in Denver. He brought that team and turned them into a playoff team. He made a lot of good trades there. And I think the pieces are there for the Bulls to compete.
Right.
So I think that, a couple, trades here and there maybe that they can make to put another piece on that team. I think so. And, so I think that's definitely in the step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. And, I honestly don't think it could get any worse. The only way it can get worse if you hire the management from, the Knicks, because they're terrible at everything.
Yeah.
But, AK has drafted, what's his face? Jokic. He drafted him in Denver, and it obviously worked out because he's a great big man that can pass the ball, and he must have saw that from the beginning. And then looking at the coaching position, Billy Donovan, I like the move for him because he's already worked with all-star talent. He's been to the playoffs before, and even before the NBA, he was a head coach at Florida, and he's taken that team to, I think, two titles, and he's developed players too.
Yeah.
So he has all-star experience, and he has developmental experience because we have a lot of young pieces, and we have upcoming all-stars. Actually, we already do have one. We have Zach Levine. So he's up there. I just think maybe he can find a way to utilize him better along some other players. And here's another thing to forget. Before he moved out of OKC, he was a Coach of the Year nominee for the 2020 season. And he took a team that wasn't projected to even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's something right there. And what I like about Billy is that he's a defensive first kind of coach. His defense is kind of, with OKC, they weren't really an offensive powerhouse or defensive powerhouse. They were more, but their defense was a little bit better than their offense. And I think that sort of direction of a little bit more on the defensive side for the Bulls would definitely be a big push because offensively, they're pretty stacked, I think.
They can score with anyone, but they need to stop some people. So,
right.
But we'll see Billy, because I did like what he did last year with that OKC team. They're a lot of young talent, and he brought them into the playoffs. So
right, and kind of just talking about young talent still. So the Bulls picked Patrick Williams from Florida State with the 4th overall pick. It was, in my opinion, a little bit of a shocker. I was expecting someone a little bit more. More of a well-known name, but you follow college basketball pretty well, so you kind of know these players better than probably I do. So, kind of like the top of my head, you told me he's more of a six man. He was 6th man of the year in the ACC, and I think that's something the Bulls need because they never really had a six man kind of player, and that could definitely help some other players kind of relinquish some of their duties a little bit. And looking at him a little bit more, Patrick Williams has that size and strength, and overall athleticism, and I think he'd be really good on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and that's what his strength was at Florida State. He was a good rebounder. He's a good defensive player. His offense is there. He can score, but he's definitely a better defensive player than offensive player. So.
Right. And then going back to AK, he's a European GM, and he's experimented with Euro big men, such as Jokic, and he's seen success from these Euro guys across the league, like Luka Doncic, for example. To me, it makes sense why he would pick Siberia second-round pick, Marko Sinonovic. I don't have a problem with him drafting him because I'm sure he's probably seen more of him versus other GMs. So he can, and what I like about drafting Euro players is most of these guys, they've had professional experience as teenagers. Like their draft class members, by the time they graduated high school in America, these guys have already been in the professional leagues for about 1 or 2 years at least. And I like to see players with more professional experience, regardless of the level of talent. But at least they've been somewhat on the big stage.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know anything about this guy. I read up a little bit about him, but yeah, he seems like he could be a good player here in the future, so We'll see what happens. And, actually now with these high school kids that don't want to go to college, they've been going overseas and playing professional basketball just to get that feel of what it's like.
Right.
So.
Yeah, like the Ball brother did that. He played in Lithuania, and he also played in Australia, I believe.
Yeah.
But, back to, Marko, with an analyst was saying he's kind of a work in progress. He's not fully completed. But I like the pick because he is a big man. And I got mad the Bulls didn't pick Wiseman at the first pick, but I think this is the next best thing they can get in the second round.
Yeah.
So, now let's kind of see, what's the prediction for the Bulls season? My prediction is I think they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe 500, which may be good enough in the East to make the playoffs. They always, there's always a few of those teams in the East that don't have that good record and they make the playoffs. So, we'll see. But yeah, I think 500 is probably a good number for them.
Yeah, that's a fair guess.
So, and I think and trending upward too. I think they'll probably start out a little slow in the beginning of the year and kind of get better and better and better throughout the season.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then kind of jumping overall picture, what are your preseason favorites to go to the NBA Finals?
My pick is the Clippers from the West and the Bucks to finally make it all the way.
Yeah, as you can see, we took a quick break. I had to go for some beers. What is it? I got the little Bismuth beer from Revolution. What are you drinking? Drinking the gummy?
This is the Don't Worry Be Gummy Hazy IPA from Noon Whistle. It's good.
Yeah, I tried both of them. I did like both of them. Thanks for bringing those. Yeah, we forgot one thing. So today is Sunday, November 29th, and it is Russell Wilson's birthday. Some fans we are, I guess.
Hey, happy birthday, Russ.
Yeah, and since we have some breaking news, Kentucky powerhouse basketball team just lost to Richmond, and Ethan made some money today.
Yeah, they're plus 7.5 today, so good on Richmond. They're good. They're a good mid-major program. So
there we go. So now we're on the topic of that. We're going to transition to college basketball. So this was the first week of college basketball, and so what are your first thoughts on what you've seen so far?
It's definitely a different season with 2020 and COVID with college basketball. They have the most stringent protocols where if someone in the program, coach, water boy, whatever, tests positive, they have to. The whole team shuts down for 14 days.
Wow.
So it's kind of been, there's been a lot of teams that are on quarantine or coming right out of quarantine that don't play well because you can't practice for 2 weeks and you got to come out and play a game. So it was an awesome first week. It's my favorite sport over any other sport. I love college basketball. Hopefully March Madness happens this year. But obviously Gonzaga had the most impressive performance. They are number one. They're going to be number one all year. They play it's an okay mid-major conference.
Yeah.
They got St. Mary's, who's always halfway decent. BYU, but Gonzaga, they dominated Kansas. Their offense is just so good.
Right. And kind of like my thoughts. It looks like it's going to be the top power schools on top. Yeah, Gonzaga, Duke, Kentucky. UNC's kind of back in the mix this year, in Villanova. And it's nice to see some other schools kind of making the top of the polls, such as Iowa, Illinois, and West Virginia.
Baylor's in there. Baylor's number 2, I think.
Yeah, Baylor is up there too. And no big upsets yet besides one we just mentioned.
Well, San Francisco took down Virginia.
Really?
Yeah, they beat them. Yeah, they beat
Was
them.
this yesterday?
It was either yesterday or the day before. They beat them 61-60. So
Yeah,
that was a pretty big upset because Virginia's number 4. So
yeah, I knew they were up there, so that's nice. Because usually like the whole term of college basketball, it just starts real slow in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you'll see an occasional upset on these invitationals.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's nice to see a little change of things. But with COVID, anything can happen. With COVID on the rise, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of canceled games.
You'll see a lot of cancellations this year.
Right, because if a player tests positive, there's a likelihood that a lot of starters will, including that. And they're more stricter with their protocols. If one tests positive, everything shuts down. And it's such a smaller team sport because they only play 5 guys on the court.
Right.
So one tests positive, it's going to be a downhill slope from there.
Yeah. There is talk of trying to get rapid testing done like how they do in college football, where if you can still field a team of 7, I think is the minimum.
Yeah.
They're trying to get everyone tested day of, and if you don't have it, you can play. But it's just going to be a crapshoot.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, college basketball is your favorite sport to watch. So, what are your favorite teams to watch?
Just the ones I have money on. I don't really have a favorite college basketball team. It's I like betting on college basketball. They're fun. But this year I'm going to follow Illinois a lot. They brought a lot back, and I think they have a decent shot to make the Final Four this year.
Yeah.
With 2 NBA players on the team and some newcomers. So,
yeah, I mean, knowing me, I'm a big Badger and Iowa State fan. I like the Badger program overall in their athletic department, and I'm an Iowa State fan because I went to school there, and they're making a big rise in their sports. Basketball's on a little bit of a slope, but that's okay. Football's up there. I'm excited to see the football program go to the Big 12 championship game. If things go right, I think they will. And I like to watch Michigan State. Actually, I'm a Tom Izzo fan. I'm not a fan of UNC, Kansas, and Kentucky because 60% of the game is literally solely on recruiting because you see a lot of these one and done players.
Mm-hmm.
People will say, "Oh, Alabama's really good in football because they recruit the top recruits." True, but there's more coaching involved in football versus basketball. I think, in the college level, I think that if you have top recruited talent, they can get you. They can get you where you need to go for their 1 year they're going to be there before they head out to the NBA.
Yeah, and see, with college coaches, and I really think coaches in general, I think get too much credit for wins, too much hurt for losses. College especially, they are as good as their recruiting is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these top coaches don't have a lot of good X's and O's. They don't run a lot of good offense. It's just put the ball in the best players' hands and let them see what they can do. So, a lot of these coaches like Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams and Bill Self, all these guys are not great X and O coaches, but they get the top talent, and so then they are in turn thought to be good coaches.
Right, and you mentioned Roy Williams from UNC, and that's a prime example because last year, maybe 2 years ago, I don't care if I'm wrong, he was struggling. And
the team wasn't good last year.
He straight up said, "I don't have as much talented players." He just straight up said, "I'm doing bad at this job because I don't have talented players."
Mm-hmm.
But a good coach, they make the best of what they have.
Exactly.
They teach them how to play the game. They don't take them, all right, do what you do, give me points. Or just follow this quick, easy scheme, offensive or defensive scheme and get us points and get us and stop people from scoring.
Yeah.
And it's coaches, when that happens, these coaches that are top pros, they get exposed like that.
Mm-hmm. That's why in the tournament, you get these teams that are mid-majors that have these good coaches that have seniors and juniors that have played together and they run good offense and they play together and their coaches know what to do, can take out these high program because the coaches don't know what to do when they get behind. They don't run good offense and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of the magic of March Madness, where you put in these small school teams against these big school teams, and that's how these upsets happen.
Yeah,
because it's just coaching shows at the tournament, not in the regular season, because the matchups are different. Because there's lesser talent in these smaller schools, but then the great schools from these small schools show up for the March Madness against the big powerhouses.
Yeah.
That's how they get them. Just straight coaching and long-term talent.
Yep.
So, since we're talking about March Madness a little bit, do you have a handful of teams you predict going to the Elite Eight? Or are there any sleepers that are kind of under the radar at the moment?
So I think Illinois is going to
agree.
make it. I think that Michigan State's going to make it. I like their team. I like I like Baylor. I like Baylor a lot. See some smaller schools have a chance. St. Louis is a really good mid-major program. Obviously Gonzaga's gonna
Right.
have a good shot to be in there. Let's see, St. Louis, Richmond today. They took out Kentucky. I think they got a lot of pieces coming back from last year's team that could have went deep in the tournament. So those are my two mid-majors that I have a really good shot this year to make it a deep run in the tournament. And then the top schools like Gonzaga and Kentucky's always there too. They always start out slower in the beginning of the season, and then they play together more and more throughout the season. And because you get top talent, everyone wants the ball, everyone wants to play one-on-one ball instead of playing together. And so that's them. I think Texas actually has a shot this year. They have a lot of talent on the team, and they're older. And Shaka Smart really has to do something this year. Else, if he doesn't make a deep run in the tournament this year, I think they're going to fire him at Texas, and who knows from there.
Yeah. Kind of another question I just thought of is like, you say you like to watch these mid-major schools compete. Do you think they produce better NBA talent versus these large powerhouses?
No, I don't really think so. I think that these teams these big powerhouses still get the best talent, and talent's going to take you far more than experience, I think, especially in the NBA. It's very rare that these mid-major schools get a top, like Damian Lillard's one of them who went to Weber State. He was, but a lot of the top talent is from bigger schools.
Yeah.
Because they know that if they go there, they'll get exposure. They'll be on TV a lot, and that's why they get to go there. So, I mean, granted, there's always some diamonds in the rough that played 4 years at these mid-majors and are going to come to the NBA and star. But
right.
it's definitely the outlier versus the norm, for sure.
Yeah. I'm very curious of what would have happened if, like, let's say LeBron, he put into Ohio State. That's where his school was going to be if he were to play college ball in Ohio State. Do you think his, would things been different if he went to college first, at least played 1 year before he went to the draft?
See, those are one of the few guys that just didn't need it. There's some that used to go from high school to the pros that just weren't as good.
Right.
But there's some guys like LeBron that just didn't need it.
Right.
I don't think it would have helped him or hurt him or anything. Just would have delayed his NBA career by a year. And I think, looking back, Kobe went directly to the NBA. He was great right off the bat. Kevin Garnett, he was great right off the bat. There you go. But, there's a few guys there that just didn't need it.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I guess that makes sense. Jordan, before he went to the NBA, he was surrounded by real great teams. He was part of one of the best high school teams in the country. That's what people kind of forget is like, Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team. Yeah, because his high school basketball team was the best in the country. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, he was surrounded by such great coaches and teams that kind of helped elevate his game to be to where he was. Yeah. Because right off the bat in NBA, he was just good. Because he's been in the big spotlight plenty of times. Because he was at UNC for 3 years, I think, at least, maybe 2.
Yeah, I think it was a junior.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, when they won the championship.
Right. It's not. Yeah, you're right. These mid-major schools, they don't typically produce NBA talent, but they give these kids at least the experience and kind of the situational awareness of how to play the game. Mm-hmm. Like you have really talented players that are one and dones, but then sometimes people are so quick to call them busts right off the bat in the first rookie season. That's because you're 20 years old and you're expected to know the full game of basketball. That's just
some guys need it.
Just crazy.
Yeah, right. Some guys need it. Some guys don't. And so
yeah. So I'm excited for the season. I want to definitely catch on more of it because now that football is starting to come to a close, along with college football, I want to kind of transition more to talk about college basketball along with the NBA because the NBA is coming back in next month in December. Yeah. So I'm excited to get some content on that. Also want to kind of transition a little bit more of the track and cross country side of things because that's kind of my main sport when I was in high school. So I want to kind of give that sport some exposure. So I'm excited for my upcoming content coming up. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so fun. I'm glad we could have some lunch and have a couple of beers and just chit chat. Me and him, we hang out very often, but we don't really have a chance to kind of sit down one-on-one and talk about these kind of things. So, thanks for coming up. I know it's kind of a little bit of a hike for you.
It's all good. I want to see your new apartment, so it looks good.
Yeah, I got some cool stuff. I got some new posters. I got my picture of Aaron Rodgers.
And then awesome painting that my son painted.
Yeah, so my nephew, he painted me a Thanksgiving picture. He said, "To Uncle AJ, love Wes," and it's a monkey. I asked him, "Oh, that's cute. You're saying that monkey is me or something?" He's like, no, you give me monkeys for Christmas. Like, okay, that makes sense. So, I mean, I kind of see me. I mean, I got that round head, and I got those big those little ears. I mean, I got some little monkey ears. But yeah, it was real cute of him to give me that gift. Once again, thanks for hopping on the show, and we'll have to collaborate again sometime early next year. We can definitely talk more about basketball. Maybe have a segment on the March Madness preview, like a March Madness preview episode.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else to say. I mean, good stuff today. Got it all the way, but yeah. So, as always, thanks for watching. Your support definitely helps the show, and remember to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend that might be interested in this content. So, those of you, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday, and I hope Christmas is as well. So, take care, guys, and stay tuned for another episode.
See ya.